Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Game Debate LiveCast in 2016. Jack, Rob, how have you been?
Hello. Been good. Busy as all hell, but getting there.
Did you have a good Christmas, either of you?
I hated it, but it was fine.
Did you get any games for Christmas? Anything you could talk about, or nothing?
I didn't receive any. I downloaded half of Steam, so I played games.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. And did you play anything interesting? Anything good?
Force is good.
I got myself a PS4 at Christmas. Been playing Destiny when I can't be bothered to play a game that actually requires anything from me. And Bloodborne has been fantastic.
So what made you get a PS4 over like an Xbox?
I just think Microsoft handled themselves really badly with all the stuff at the start of the launch with the Kinect and the Always Online and like the Xbox 360 I thought was a great console until they started shoehorning all their stupid app bullshit. And I was just like, the Xbox One's going to be like that, and Sony took the move of being like anti-Xbox because of that.
Yeah. And
the exclusives coming out on the PS4 next year are much more enticing than Tomb Raider a few months early, honestly.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I still haven't bought a PS4 and Xbox. I was going to wait out to maybe get an Oculus Rift or something, but now that's happened. Which we will talk about more today as well. Again, hi to everyone in the chat. Hi to Yanis2000, who says, hi boys. We have 219 viewers. Yeah, I know. Do we? I can't see the numbers, but...
Surprising. Ouch.
Yeah. Cool. So, this week is the first week back since you've been on at Christmas. And coming up, we've got a lot of the hot news in this week. So the main thing at the moment, we've got the Oculus Rift price point. So we're going to hear a bit about the Rift. You know, everyone's been going a bit crazy because it's been so expensive and everyone thought they were going to be able to play virtual reality games. But it looks like that's going to take a bit longer than everyone expected. We also have a review of Steam, so if you're interested in numbers and businessy stuff, which I'm sure everyone loves to hear about, we're going to have a look at Steam and how they did in 2015, and have a bit of a chat about what we're expecting from like all the game clients coming out moving forward. Alongside that, we've also got a bit of a chat about exclusive game titles, and are they ruining the games industry, or aren't they? Are they good, or are they bad? Are they right, or are they wrong? All of that coming up soon. But first, yeah. So you guys both had a pretty good Christmas then. Did you play anything? I picked up Soma yesterday and played a bit. At the
so good, isn't it?
Yeah, I quite like it. It's a bit it's not as scary as I thought it would be.
No, it's not. But I liked that. At first, I was like, oh, this isn't that scary. But then I just started really enjoying the story of it.
I was absolutely shitting myself originally because it's an amnesia game. I just expect loads of stuff's going to jump out and scare me, then it doesn't. So I've still got that like high level of anticipation with it, but yeah, it's not as scary as I thought it would be. A what?
Is that one of the walking simulators?
No. It's,
No.
It's immersing yourself in an atmosphere, Rob. Come on, we can't just have everything spoon fed to us.
That's what they're called, isn't it?
Someone released a mod for it where all the enemies don't attack you and they just float around, and some people have said the game's better like that. But I don't know. But yeah, Rob, did you pick up anything over Christmas? Any good games? Did you play Assassin's Creed Syndicate? Of course.
Good games. So
yeah.
Not that. Broforce was really good.
Broforce.
I enjoyed Broforce.
Broforce is fucking awesome. That's probably one of my favourite games last year. We had many parties where we'd go around and just all play Broforce for a bit. That was pretty cool.
The first time I played it was yesterday, trying to get some co-op on the go, which is fun. Downloaded Skyrim again, so that was a mistake. Just started playing way more Skyrim than is needed. That happens every time.
Yeah. Yeah, you hate Skyrim, don't you, Jack?
I liked it at first, but then I got bored because, there's only so many dragons you can kill before you want to kill yourself. Oh, here, get thing. Bring it to me, and I will give you thing.
It was online, like, being the only thing that didn't make it an MMO, is not having online access. Yeah. It was almost like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, at least now, we've got the future of gaming to talk about now, which is the future, which is virtual reality, probably. Are you looking forward to virtual reality, Jack? Do you think it's going to be fun?
I am. Like, I've been psyched about it since it first got announced, and like I say, every time we bring it up, Star Citizen is going to be the one on VR, and it's going to be the make or break of it, in my opinion. And that's why I want to do it. I want to fly around space and be an absolute dick to people and actually feel like it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, my mate's playing Elite Dangerous now, and I keep asking him how that's compared to Star Citizen. He keeps saying, "Oh no, it's probably going to be Star Citizen's going to be awful, and that's going to be way better." They look like the same game to me, but I'm not sure. You never know. We'll find out, I guess.
I played a little bit of Elite Dangerous, and I found it quite boring. What interests me about Star Citizen is the player agency they seem to be pushing with the game.
Yeah.
And how it's kind of like, the way EVE is set up to be a player-built universe. It looks like Star Citizen's pushing to be a similar sort of thing.
Okay.
And I just think it's one of those games you cannot judge for like at least 2 years now. Like when the game's out, when they're like, right, you can play it, it's online multiplayer, we've got all our flying and shit and trading, then it can be judged. At the moment, it's just, oh, here's our engine, we're kind of building it still.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting when it comes out finally, and then we can compare them. That's going to be a big show-off, I think. Or big show-off,
yeah,
am I saying?
So.
A big...
Showdown,
yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Showdown.
Cool, okay. So, we've got a bit of new... We're going to try it a bit differently now. So, when we're introducing stuff, we're going to make people go full screen. So, Rob and Jack will be able to hear you, but I think my face is going to take over. There we go. God. I look so messy. I don't like looking at myself. Massive. But, anyway, to start this week off. So, this week, we were announced from Oculus... we finally got the price for the original Oculus Rift, and it's going to be pretty expensive, a bit more expensive, I think, than everyone else is thinking. So there's been a lot of big criticisms at Oculus at the moment, because the thing is, I think when they were announcing the Rift and when it was all coming out, everyone was expecting to be able to buy headsets and be able to sort of jump into VR games this year. But, once now this first price has come out, it's very clear that it's not the case, that it's going to be something everyone can afford to do. So the question now is, how is that going to affect VR moving forward? And, what is this going to mean? Is this going to mean we're going to have VR a lot later? A developer's going to stop making games because the hardware's too expensive? And there's quite a lot of questions to sort of go over and go through. But before we go into sort of the nitty-gritty details over sort of what Oculus did, I've got a bit of information I want to show you guys first. So the first thing, so the Oculus pricing now. So in the UK, without shipping, it's £499 for a headset. In the US, it's $599, and in the EU, it's $699, which is a really expensive amount for a new peripheral, I think. In the countries it's going to be available in, I'll just go through them super quick, even though this might be a bit of a waste of time. I think it might help. So you've got Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Japan, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Spain, Sweden, Taiwan, United Kingdom, and the United States as countries you can buy the Rift in. So if I didn't say your country out there, unfortunately you might have to wait until, I don't know, even 2017 before you're able to get your hands on one. And the stuff that they're going to include with the box is a little sort of like hand controller thing. So when you press it, you can control the mouse and stuff a lot easier than having to like blindly find your mice and keyboard somewhere. You now have to blindly find a small little remote. You also get the sensor with it, an Oculus Rift headset, and you also get an Xbox One controller. Alongside that, we posted an article on Game Debate earlier on this week to say what people think of it, and we had a couple of comments from the viewers which are quite interesting. So Lucas371 said the same with, which was the top comment as well, I might add. Same with every new technology, as it comes at a premium price. And let's not forget the amount of money you need for a rig that can even utilise the £600 Oculus, which is in the 1K region and upwards. I won't be jumping into VR just yet. And that sort of makes sense, I guess, for a lot of people with the price being so high. And we also got a comment from Red Bad Rooster, who said, I'd rather spend that $600 to buy an upgrade for my PC while I wait for a cheaper alternative for the Rift. I still not seen a game that I will delve myself... Is delve a word? It sounds like a word. Yeah. There you go. I'll delve myself into playing for hours. Until then, VR is a mere dream for me. And from
just needed the word myself to be removed.
Yeah. And I think... And so what we got from the poll is... We also got just under 300 people saying it was way too expensive. We got about 25 people saying it's what they expected. And not many people said it was cheaper than they thought. I don't think it was cheaper than what anyone thought for the Rift. And yeah, I don't think... Apparently a couple of people thought it was a bargain, which, if you look at the prices previously, you know, there is some chance it could be a bargain. So the first thing you want to go over is, why is the Oculus so expensive? And, you know, I mean, when the DK... So the DK2, it came out at around, I think it's about £222, about $300 when it first came out. And if you want to look at this image quickly, so this shows us the difference between the parts in the DK2 and the CV1, which is the consumer headset coming out. So for a start, the DK2 has clearly a significantly less amount of parts than the CV1 has. And in essence, because the game technology is so new, and because it's so broad and there's so much to do with these headsets, that it's going to clearly cost a significant amount of more. When Palmer Luckey was talking about Oculus's reasoning behind keeping it so high, the main point of it was that they could have released a lot cheaper headset that was a lot worse, but the point is that they wanted to release VR that people would be quite excited about. They didn't want to put out a product and everyone would be going, oh, well, this could be way better, or this could be better. They wanted to put it out in a complete form, which, in essence, has potentially screwed them a bit, because the point of it, of releasing it too high, is that everyone thought they were going to be able to play VR now, which they can't. And I think a lot of it now is to do with the messaging that Oculus sent out. So clearly there was meant to be, I think, quite a cheaper obviously people expected a lot cheaper headset than there actually was. And what's that sound? Is that your cat?
That's mini eggs being presented to me.
That was a really, really loud packet crunching. It's alright. I forgive you. But yeah, so yeah, they announced it is going to be really expensive, and now, as they announced it and everyone thought it was going to be really cheap, and it's finally come out, and it's probably one of the most expensive pieces of kit you'll buy this year. So, Jack, burn your mini eggs.
That's it, that's one of them.
So, I guess first, Rob, like, what do you think? What were your thoughts on the Oculus pricing? Were you going to buy a headset? Were you not going to buy a headset?
No, I don't care too much for peripherals. From my time working with them as well, I'm kind of aware that there's nothing available for them yet. People don't really know how to utilize the stuff yet. So what you're not seeing games being made. You're seeing tech demos being made, and there's only so many tech demos where you walk around to get the feel of VR before you get a bit bored of that. So I think it's definitely something which people can probably hold out for until, one, the headsets come down, and two, there's content for it. So it's kind of like, why would you buy a Wii U? No one's making anything for it. That type of argument going on.
And what did you think of the price?
It's really expensive. I know they've got their arguments for why it's expensive, and the quality of the lenses, the peripherals that they force on you, which, as a PC gamer, you probably have a controller. So, like, I've got one. Yeah. I don't have a headset, but I do have a control pad because I play games. So that seems a bit silly, throwing that sort of thing in and using that as a reason for the price. And I don't think the quality of the lenses yet are going to be able to be utilized on the current hardware, just because the amount of processing power that needs to run a VR game. They probably could have kept the price down a bit by using realistic lenses for the time being, but that's just what I would have thought their approach might have been.
And just a dump on the defending Oculus bandwagon, which not many people are doing as well. So the controller stuff they bundled in with it, and everything they bundled in with it, is basically nothing really. So the controller is basically donated from Microsoft. So a lot of people have said, oh, can't you just reduce the price and get rid of the games and get rid of the controller and get rid of all this other stuff? And really, that stuff is like minimal. Basically, it's like almost negligible. What Palmer Luckey's been saying, who's the founder of Oculus, he's been saying if you want to do that, then just sell the Xbox One controller for a little profit if you want to. Which,
a little profit.
Well, you can make some
how
of your money
that works. I spent 500 quid and made 50. I made a 50 quid profit.
You got it. What do you think? Yeah, but it's you pay.
No, but to be fair, an Xbox One controller is 50 quid, like that.
Yeah. I
think you have to take that into account in the pricing, because new controllers are highly sought after. We sell them in the shop as soon as they come in.
I think people will still probably be as outraged at 550 cost as much as they are at 600, maybe a tiny bit less, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. It's still a shock price compared to the 300 ballpark. And as well, yeah, I think you mentioned before, like the specs you have to be able to run this. So the minimum requirements for a Rift are a GTX 970 or an AMD 290, Intel i5 Grey at 8 gig of RAM. You need 4 USB ports now as well to run everything through it, and ideally need compatible HDMI 1.3 video outputs, which most people has. Chat, if you're listening, do you guys think? Has anyone in there bought an Oculus Rift? Is anyone getting an Oculus Rift? Did anyone want one and then decide they're not going to get one? And how many people in the chat actually have a PC that can run a Rift, like at that spec? Because I don't. Do you, Jack? Yours can.
I think so. Yeah.
970.
Yeah, it can. But I'm not spending 600 quid on something that, like Rob said, it doesn't have games for it. I wouldn't even. Like, I barely was happy spending my 300 quid on the PS4 or whatever, and I bought like 10 games with that.
Yeah. And Rob, can your computer run it? No?
I think it can now, yeah. I've recently upgraded the graphics card. So, yeah, I reckon it would run it, but I don't need to at the moment.
And I think, so do you think that this new device has now priced people out the market for getting virtual reality? Rob?
It's hard to say. I mean, that could be one of the reasons, but I think the price is probably the smaller of the reasons. Anyone who is interested in keeping up to date with that type of tech probably has the funds for that type of thing put aside, or like to upgrade PC is probably that sort of PC running. I think price is going to be less of a reason than the amount of content available for it. That would be my problem going into it.
I think, as you can see, so GD as well. We're going to be looking to get a headset as well, and we're going to be testing one here to see all the benchmarks and see how they run. So if people do want to fork out a lot for that headset, and we will be able to provide all the different specs. I know that the Oculus have told all game developers that basically all their games have to run on a 970. So it'll be interesting to see what compatibility levels they'll get from the actual developers themselves, and all the games come out. And alongside that as well, I think there's obviously they've got their own marketplace which they're bringing out alongside, which will be quite interesting to see how that goes compared to Steam and sort of other clients at the moment, because so Oculus as well, when you buy the headset, it isn't just limited to using their store. You can use it to play any virtual reality game. It's not a locked device at all. And I mean, I think for the pricing of VR then, so we've got obviously the other two headsets, which people aren't really talking about that much. We've got the Samsung Gear VR headset and the Google Cardboard headset. So the Samsung Gear VR headset is it's $100 if you buy it in the States. It's about the same here in the UK. And with that, it does require an S6 phone or a Galaxy Note 4 phone. But for people who do want to experience VR and don't want to pay like 600 quid, oh God, my stomach. They don't want to pay 600 quid or like a really big price chunk for it. There are headsets out there and available now that you can get. So Jack, have you been following much of VR? Do you think the price tag?
The thing is, I just don't. It's so hard to follow something you don't know anything about. You know, like I watch videos on it and think, yeah, it seems cool, and what I imagine it to be is cool. But the thing with technology is that the promise of it, the potential of it, is never actually what happens. So I'm sort of just reserving as much judgment as I can until I actually get my hands on one and have a proper sit-down experience with it. The concept of VR, into it, like really into it. But I just don't understand enough about it to be able to follow it and make or build an idea of what I think about it, if you know what I mean. Apart from that, yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
Do you think it'll be a fad, or do you think it'll be more than a fad?
I mean, there's so much put into it now. Like all the big people have been sort of jumping on, and I think that I don't know. I don't think it'll be big for games, honestly. I think it will like be something else. I just think that games. It's like we were talking about when we first talked about it, about how when players are playing, you have to guide them to see things. So what you spend loads of time and assets on, they might not even notice.
Yeah.
And I think that it will come down to that, and then maybe interactive experiences like that. Was it The Park or something? That horror game that was based on The Secret World.
Oh, there's a lot of horror ones. There's I can't remember the top of my head what they're called.
That one seemed like it'd be really cool.
Affliction. That's what it's called, I think. Maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, I think it is hard to think how would this all stand out compared to, like, we've got 3D TVs that have come and gone, and we've got 4K, which is taken off. We obviously have the Kinect and all the PlayStation Move controllers and stuff. I mean, so Rob, do you think this is just a fad, or how do you think people are gonna respond to it?
Making a prediction. Everyone, I don't know. I would say if it's a fad, it's an expensive one. To me, it seems more of a gimmick than it does a necessity. I have never played a game and thought, this is almost perfect, but if I could just see through the eyes of that character and turn my head around and feel as I lived in that world, it would. I've never felt that. Games have pretty much offer what they need to offer at the moment. So I think for me, that's why it would fall into the category of gimmick. But I think it can also provide some good experiences and some different type of outlets for people to play, but like Jack said, possibly not for games as such. So that'd be my opinion on it.
Because I think it does significant. I think a lot when 3D TVs came out, you're sort of it's sort of like stuff just sort of comes out the screen a tiny bit, and it doesn't really improve the experience that much. With these VR headsets now that are coming out, obviously you can look around, you can look at different things, and it does add something more to the gaming experience a bit. And more importantly, it's not necessarily like the Kinect or something. It's not the way you control it. It's the way you look at stuff as well. So I think there's definitely a couple of different dimensions where we could see this taking off, and how it will be. I think, like Jack said before, you think it wouldn't be used for games. I mean, most VR content now isn't actually used for watching games at all. It's used for other stuff. So, yeah, VR, Oculus expensive. Maybe don't get one yet.
Well, chat's just saying... Welch 2008 says he played the PSVR at PSX and it's amazing. That he played Valkyrie and Loading Human, and I said, "Do you think it's worth 600 quid?" And he says he thinks the price will actually be 400, and that is completely worth it.
Yeah.
And that as a 37-year-old, it renewed his gaming hype, and I think that's interesting. Everyone I've spoken to has tried it, has said it is incredible. Like, you don't expect it to be that immersive and that overwhelming, and it is.
Yeah.
And those games when you're just looking on a tiny screen, you step out into a vista. If that's your entire vision, that's going to be mind-blowing.
And I think that is another thing. Like, when people try it, it is absolutely... I mean, the technology now is crazy. I mean, people are complaining about the price of these headsets, but what they actually do is pretty phenomenal. Like, there's almost no latency. There's basically no latency when you're looking around. It's like you're feeling it's like you're being somewhere else. Everything's stereoscopic. You've got head tracking. You can move around and look at stuff. Like, this tech is, like, miles beyond anything that's sort of been done before it's been released. So... I mean, apart from Oculus horrifically setting everyone's expectations, there's like loads to go from it, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it moves on, I think. But yeah, Welch, it's good. It could be renewed in for gaming. There's definitely a lot of people who haven't really done any games or anything, been sort of waiting for virtual reality since the 90s or so, and we're soon gonna finally get it and see what it's like. Cool. Well, VR, I might have to get myself a headset at some point. I don't know when though.
If I can justify the amount of money, I will get it. But I just don't think I could justify £600 on something. I've spent that's half my gaming PC, like in its entirety.
Yeah.
That's a graphics card there. That's a really nice processor or something.
If I had the money, I think I'd definitely get it. But I don't have 600 quid at the moment, unfortunately. So one day, maybe. Who knows? Cool, right. So if you have just joined us, this is the Game Debate live stream where we talk every week from 5 till 6 on a Sunday about the latest gaming news. We've just finished speaking about the Oculus Rift headset and pricing announced. And we've got coming up, we're going to have a bit of a chat about Steam's review, a review on Steam last year and how well they did. And we're also going to talk about the I don't know what to say, the ethicalness of exclusive games and how they are. And we're going to hear a bit from Rob about that. And yeah, that's all coming up.
Bring ethics into it. Just and get your hopes up.
We do have a few more comments, I think, about VR now. So some people, one person doesn't really care about VR. I mean, it is really hard to give an opinion of, I'd say, until you try it. What else I'll say? What's around from Rattlehead? What surround sound gaming headsets do you recommend? Yeah. Well, we don't answer tech questions live. You've got to sort of keep it like specific to what we're talking about. But yeah, it's interesting how some people talk about VR, where it's like, well, you can't actually move around your body and stuff yet inside it, which would be quite interesting because you've got like, if you compare like the Kinect up with like a VR headset, so you've got full motion tracking and you're in something. I think that's where we're going with it. But again, yeah, with the headset stuff now coming out now, that's where we're at the moment, and I think we're still a couple of years away from that. Cool.
I think that's where the Vive improved on it. When I played on the Vive,
yeah,
the little box area that you're recorded in with the handsets, that definitely added something that just sticking a headset on doesn't. Which made it bridged that gap between just being a gimmick that you put on your head to something which offers a new experience that a normal control pad couldn't. I think that was the sort of thing that the Vive is currently bridging. I don't know about the new Oculus controllers. I've not tried those.
They look quite cool. You just slip your fingers in comfortably and see how they go. So, on next story for this week. So, as most TV things, people seem to be doing reviews of the year before. So I thought we'd do a bit of a review of Steam and have a look a bit of how Steam did last year. Because, at the moment, Steam are probably the largest, they are the largest PC client for games. They're probably the largest PC gaming market in the world at the moment. So a lot of what Steam has, a lot of what Steam does, can be really good for working out indicative trends of what's going to happen all over gaming in the future. So we've got some data from a guy called Sergey Glakonin. I'll drop up, if we upload this video to YouTube, I'll drop a little link so you can read his article. So what he did, he used a site called Steam Spy, and in which it estimates ownership and does statistical analysis of games on Steam. And what he's done now is he's crunched the numbers a bit and put them into some form of a way we can sort of explain it and ways we can understand. So Steam actually has had their best year in Steam ever. How many new games, Jack and Rob, do you think got released on Steam last year?
Too many.
Far too many. Way too many.
Ballpark, guess it.
Yeah.
1,000 plus.
Way more than that. Is this including all of the rubbish which is getting through on Greenlight so far at the moment?
Yes.
It's sickening. I don't know.
No idea?
Couldn't guess. No.
3,000 games they got uploaded this year.
God damn.
Yeah. Do you know how many were uploaded in 2014? Any guesses?
Like fucking 10% of that.
1,900. They've had a 1,100 increase.
Wow.
That is insane.
Yep. Also, they've increased their concurrent users on average from 8 million to 12 million now. And
in 1 year?
In 1 year, yeah. They've gone up 4 million users. It's just pretty mad, isn't it? And, yeah, they've also, I think they sold over 350 million games last year as well, which is pretty big. So, if you start off, some quick data. So, last year, exactly, there were 3,026 games uploaded on Steam. Average user score, 75%. That's pretty good. Most of the games are good, apparently. Average playtime over all games is 5 minutes and 37 seconds. And the average price of a game in dollars is $12. So they're the fun little top detail facts from last year. And okay, so if we start on the first thing. So this is a graph that shows the number of monthly releases on Steam. So a lot of people... a lot of indie developers particularly have been scared that there's just becoming more and more game development all the time coming on Steam, and because of that, it's getting a lot harder to release games and to market games. So what this shows is actually the amount of games being released on Steam is actually curving a bit. So games per month. So it used to be increasing, and now it's just sort of flattened out a bit now. So game developers can worry less now about having to compete with lots and lots of titles, and it's definitely not going up. We're definitely coming to like a straight line with it, which is quite interesting. So as well, the average, when do you think the best time to buy a game on Steam is, Rob and Jack?
Got to be Christmas. It's got to be.
Winter sales.
Yeah, so either the summer sales or the Christmas sales. So yeah, because the Christmas sales and summer sales are cheap. That's when they went to typically the largest amount of discounts. Average discount in summer was about 50%, and then in the winter it was just above that. It's about in the mid-50s, which is a bit higher, which is interesting. And as well, the final bit of data here. Bing. So this is the top games estimated revenue on Steam. So the top two by a load were Grand Theft Auto 5 and Fallout 4, which absolutely dominated in all the sales charts, which is quite interesting. I think Elite Dangerous is there. The interesting thing to note that though is that out of all the top games, there's really only a handful of PC exclusive games and indie games. So typically we see the biggest sales come from the biggest games, which makes sense, I guess. Which I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, it makes sense really that we would have more from that. So what are the chat saying about Steam? Do people have different thoughts about it? It looks like they do. Rattlehead dislikes Steam for a lot of reasons. It'd be good to hear what those are. Cofulus. So Steam is awesome, though it's like Facebook but for games. I don't care about DRM. I just love Steam. I've been using it for so long. It's become my left hand now. Facebook for games. I guess that makes sense.
See, that comparison kind of sums it all up to me. It's like, I love Steam. Fucking love it. I have over 340 games or some shit on that. But how do we know like it's good? Because we don't have an alternative. Like every time like Uplay Origin comes out, it's not got more games on it. Why would you bother? Why would you care? So Steam is like the only one.
Yeah.
And I just get really worried. Like, I don't think it's good for there to be like a single person running the market. Like I think that's the problem with Facebook. I think that's why Facebook is so hard to use, because they don't care about making a friendly user experience. They care about holding their audience and marketing ads to them and stuff and making money. And I feel like Valve is moving that way. You know, I remember they used to release quality games, and yeah, like everyone always jokes about, they just seem to not be able to get beyond number 2. And you know, I'd like to see a new game from them, even Left 4 Dead 3, Portal 3, Portal 2.5, if we feel better about it. Like, yeah. And on Steam, I remember you could go on there and you could like go look in a genre and like just rinse through it and see what's there. Now, I go look in a genre and I'm just like, what the fuck am I looking at? There is so much tripe here. Just random little games, and it's becoming harder and harder to find games, and now I've stopped looking through it because it just seems so overwhelming, the amount of fluff there.
And you mentioned about...
You definitely need to take a look at their greenlight process and just monitoring it a bit better. Well, monitoring it at all. So
what do you think of the greenlight process then, Rob? Do you think, because I've not really been burnt by it yet. I think the only proper games I've bought were Prison Architect, which was in greenlight for 3 years, but I did quite enjoy playing the different updates. And I mean, has there been a lot of games that have been sort of canned or cancelled before release that people have put money into in early access?
Yeah, like Firefall.
Things. I mean, you can go straight from greenlight to selling the game. Obviously now more people are going into early access because people seem willing to buy half-made games in the hope that they come out, which I think is flawed. It seems like a strange process, but it might work for some developers. But I mean, just the greenlight process in general, I wasn't aware until I watched one of Total Biscuit's. No, it might have been Jim Sterling's videos, mm-hmm. where he actually read something. They say that they don't release games through greenlight unless they feel it would be a Valve quality game. So in Valve's mind, apparently they've got something where nothing will get through greenlight unless they would be happy to release it themselves, which makes you wonder how these highly racist and abusive games have gotten through in the past, even if it's only for like a week. Yeah. And then taken down. That means that at some point Valve has apparently seen it and went, yeah, I'd probably release that if given the time. And then obviously people complain and go, Valve then take it off and remove it, which is good, but it just shows there's a lack of any sort of moderation going on, even if...
You cut out for a minute there, Rob.
I was saying the largest problem there is lack of moderation. There's a lot going through, but something needs to be done, I think.
And what are your thoughts on that, Jack?
Well, it's not particularly Steam Greenlight. It's more early access in general. I think it's just such a problem at the moment. It's so hard to tell between someone who's actually looking to deliver on the promise and will, and people who are just looking to make a quick buck. Because I've backed Star Citizen. I believe that's one of the good ones. I know Chris Roberts. I've played his games. I think they're fucking amazing. And everything I've seen in Star Citizen's progress has made me feel, yeah, they're going the right direction. It looks good already. What they're talking about is shit I'm interested in. But then I bought a game called Firefall, which I told was going to be an action MMO, like, you know, player agency. You'd have to defend towns, and there'd be all this cool shit going on, like, you know, PvP open world. I was like, this is my wet dream. And then the game comes out, and it is fucking awesome. Like, the gameplay is exactly as it needs to be. But the actual meta revolves around go to a place, drop a thing, just fucking defend it against waves for ages. That's it. Yeah. That's the game.
Yeah.
So then they start changing how you level up and changing how these abilities work. Like as if it's a released game already, just because they're listening. Because the problem is, the people who are giving you money are the people playing the game, and they're saying, well, I want the game to be like this. So you change it for them, and instead of actually progressing anywhere, you have a skeleton which you're just moving bones around in. It's like, no, I need a full fucking body. And now Firefall, I went back to it, it's like 3 years since I first gave them money. There's even less of a game now. There's not even PvP at all anymore. I mean, maybe they put it back in since I haven't played it in a long time, but that kind of shit, that really upsets me, and I think that, you know, it's just too easy to go, yeah, here's a game, it's going to be sick, people give you loads of money, and then you just piss off.
Yeah.
But look at, what was that game, War Z? That was atrocious.
It's, I think it's definitely a double-edged sword. If you're going to release a system where people can release games out, I mean, if you look at like the use case for who it's made, where little Billy is sat in his home computer, and he's made this little demo of a game that people want to play, and then, luckily for him, millions of people will buy it. Or maybe it's not millions, that's a lot. Like, hundreds of thousands of people maybe will buy it, and then from that money, he'll be able to then go and complete the development of his game. So I mean, you can see what it's made for and what it's there for, and the type of developers and people that are going to make games there. I mean, I don't think Steam... I mean, do we agree with the fact that Steam Early Access and Greenlight's there in the first place, or do you think it's something that should be removed? Because I think, personally, that... For what we get from it, games like, you know, for the couple of gems you have had from it, it is worth it. But I guess, Rob, from like a developer's perspective, do you think that it's worth the hassle?
I think it's good, and I'm not against it. And kind of like what Jack was saying, no, I'm definitely not against it. I've played Starbound, which is still in early access, and that is more polished than some release games I've seen, and that's still in development, which is good. But it's being abused at the moment, and there's no one there to check and sort of safeguard the people which maybe aren't so savvy, or maybe I don't think people are looking at reviews as much as they should, or just even looking at screenshots and thinking, even for like an alpha of the game, that looks terrible, and they're still buying it, and then they're being stung by that. So I just think it needs more moderation, and it would be a really good idea, because it can help get the funding that otherwise might not have been there to complete that game. So I think it'd be good.
That's what it comes down to, is moderation. Like, if there was some sort of system where I could go look at a game and go, right, these developers have, you know, got some cool badge or some shit from Valve which says, yeah, this is a trustworthy project, or, you know, maybe this person's unverified, I know a bit more, because some people are releasing some amazing games early access. They really are. And, you know, there's some shit out there which you think, yeah, this is like, Starbound is a great example of like a rich, deep, complex game. Then other games, they're just looking for a quick buck to rip off some people. And like DayZ, that to me is the quintessential piss take of early access. They offered you this gameplay experience, which to me at the time blew my mind. I was like, that's new. That, like, it felt new. Like, the meta comes from player behavior. That's an infinite amount of gaming there. And then they were like, right, well, instead of actually fixing zombie pathing or zombies teleporting or, you know, random deaths when you go through a door frame, let's add in some hats and some different guns, and let's change the way this works. And actually, instead of finishing this game, we're going to make a standalone one, because no, we promise you boys, I know we've already taken money from you, but this time, because it'll be its own engine, it'll work. Standalone comes out, oh, it's got the exact same fucking problems, like the exact same. I went back and played DayZ about 6 months ago. I was in a building. I just got a gun, so it was like 3 hours or something I've been playing, and I just hear a zombie, and I look around, it's not there, and just see it fly past, just through the walls, just on again. I was like, alright, try shooting it as it comes through, nope. And then, oh, I've been hit, oh, I'm bleeding. So I charge out the building, it hit me once, charge out the building. By the time I got to the bottom floor, my character passed out, and then I just had to watch my guy die slowly. And I don't mind how annoying that is. If that zombie had come in and trapped me in there, fine, that's fucking hilarious. But the fact that it was like Jesus no clip coming in hot, like, what can I... That wasn't fun, that was bullshit. And then the 3 hours I'd just spent were just pissed back into my face. And I realised I'd given these devs £60 or like 60 quid in total in the end, for the same broken, unfinished game and Dean Hall clearly had no intention of finishing it. He's now pissed off and going, I'm making a new, different game this time. And that's what's wrong with it. But if you had moderation, someone watching them and actually seeing them, like, are you achieving your milestones? Are you actually developing the game? Are you going on the original roadmap, not just tweaking and trying to appease petty gamers who are playing it at the moment? I think it'd be fine.
I think as well, I agree. I mean, yeah, with Steam growing up at the moment, that's not a lot of people, since the Christmas outage was had, but everyone could see other people's details because of caching problems they had. There were quite a few articles criticizing Steam, saying as they're basically now the biggest game platform in the world, basically, and they now have a more they can't act like a small indie company. So when everyone's data was being shown everywhere and people didn't know whether they'd been hacked or not, they were quite quiet. And it definitely, we just spoke about how much money they're making. So their market was worth 3.5 billion last year, which is absolutely insane. And they definitely need to add more steps in, more moderation steps in, I think, to get green light, and just to make sure that, like you said, everything is working. I mean, as far as what were we just talking about? What's the game?
DayZ.
DayZ, yeah, brain dead. I keep saying Left 4 Dead. But yeah, DayZ. I feel kind of bad for them because they definitely gone off with the right intention of what they wanted to do, but they've absolutely.
The problem is they decided to listen to their user base, and what people need to remember, and this is me talking about myself as well. Gamers are entitled, arrogant, petty, elitist scum, and we fucking kick off over anything. Like, we get so indignant, and every time they release something, someone would bitch about it, how it broke the meta and blah blah. They should have ignored that completely and continued developing, and to me, zombie pathing should have been top of the list. Like, the game is about zombies. Your zombies should work. That seems so simple. And whatever happened, they stopped fixing that. They never changed it, and the same problems continued.
Yeah.
And you can't play a zombie game with half the time the zombies, you get a patch, you run around and be like, oh yeah, cool, zombies in this patch don't actually notice you anymore, so
that's a bit of
the point.
Yeah. So if we were going to give Steam 3 tips to improve on for 2016, I guess we'd say improve the green light system with more moderation. What else?
Open-faced PR, just try and gain back a bit of consumer goodwill. I think they are being a bit shady, EA-ish at the moment.
Let people know when your shit's going down and what's happening, and that my account hasn't been hacked, and I'm not terrified, going, oh my god, some Russian guy's taking my account. And
why Russian, Tim? That's very xenophobic.
No, when I logged on to my Steam, I just saw Russian names. That's why I said Russian. It was nothing against the Russian people or Russia specifically.
Russia.
And I guess for a third thing, I don't know. They should probably I don't know. They've got a lot of games coming out now. Maybe improve the interface a bit. We didn't really talk about that. The interface is still pretty bad.
But they did. They did an interface update a year ago. You remember where they kind of. The colours got a bit lighter and the edges were a little bit shaded. Watch out! Here we go.
I do know that because there's one indie game.
The Metro theme.
The Metro theme.
What's that?
You can get skins
for Steam.
Make Steam look good. Yeah, just download Steam Metro theme.
My whole world has just been shattered.
I didn't know that either. There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Well, fine.
Where can you get it done, Rob?
I'll get a link for everyone.
Yeah, post a link in the chat. There you go. You can change your Steam client. No more complaining now, I guess.
You can then change the color scheme for it as well, which is good.
That's good. Cool.
It says when you go to this link, it says 404. I think that's just a joke. It's not actually a broken page.
I actually wish they'd have a better way to sort through your games list, because I have so many fucking games now that I have no way to I want to be able to categorize them by genre or not. I know it does that already, but way more specific, by tags that I would decide, not by the Steam.
You can do that too.
Wow. And just to let everyone know as well, I've got a message from Lord Felix above, who actually said there is also a Game Debate skin you can get as well. So we'll check that out on the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put a link down below where you can get the Game Debate skin as well. So that'd be quite cool. But yeah, I'll have to try that out when we get some more time to
need to spend an evening with Steam and be look, I didn't know there was things I could do with you.
I'll send
there you go, that's improvement points. They need to teach people how to use Steam.
Yeah.
Tell us stuff, please. Cool. Okay, so if you have just joined us, this is the Game Debate live stream. Every week we do talk about the latest gaming news and stuff, and industry stuff each week. This week we've spoken about Oculus Rift coming out. We've also touched a bit on what Steam could improve for 2016. And now we're about to go into our final piece for this week. So one of the things, what's been quite a hot topic fairly soon, is about exclusive game titles. So I don't want to talk too much about it, because so this week we're going to hear from our lovely Rob, who's to my top left, I think. There we go. And Rob's going to give us... So Rob's a game developer, so Rob's going to give us a bit of a view on exclusives, what he thinks. And afterwards, while he's talking, if you guys could just like write what you think of what he's saying, and then after he's like done his bit, we'll come back and we'll all sort of like have a bit of a chat about game exclusives. And what do we think? Are they good or bad? Or all those other words I said before. So if you want to hold on 1 second, Rob, let me just update our banner to our latest thing. Ooh, bing. There we go. Right. Okay, Rob. You are full screen.
Full screen. Terrifying. Yeah, so I did look into a lot of this for you, and I don't have an overall sort of an end-all answer. I ended up actually being quite uncertain on the pros and cons for exclusives.
Okay.
So one of the things that I completely overlooked originally is how and why exclusives would have, why they would have been done, why they're a thing. So looking back at the really old consoles, you've got the Mega Drives, you've got the NES, and that type of thing. Pretty much everything was exclusive because obviously Sega made games for their Mega Drive and Atari made games for their systems. Nintendo made games for the NES. And obviously there are exclusions to that. People were able to make their own games and put them on cartridges and stuff, but very rarely did you get anybody until the very sort of late part of those consoles' lifetimes where other third-party developers would make or offer to make games to release them on the consoles. So everything back then kind of made sense, and that almost carried on into the Xbox and PlayStation era. Obviously, by that time, you did have a lot more designers and developers releasing their games on those consoles. They would have been releasing them exclusively then because it isn't and wasn't easy to make cross-platform games. So it would essentially be, I might know how to use the Xbox SDKs, so I'm going to build something for your SDK if you let me release it on there. Simple as that. Which I think that's kind of where the fairness of that ends, personally. I think if you're doing it because maybe that's as a developer or you can afford to make it on one console or you're experienced at making it on that one console, that's fine. I think what we're entering now in this current era, in the genre that we've got, the genres we've got now, is companies are giving things like timed exclusives. I think that is completely... I think that can only be a negative impact because that is impacting the people that have bought the consoles. And going right back as well, I should have mentioned this earlier. Obviously, originally, you would have known that if you've got a Mega Drive, you're going to get Sonic games. If you've got a Nintendo, you're going to get Mario games and so on. You kind of knew as a consumer what you were getting into. Mm-hmm. Whereas now, if you buy a PS4 or an Xbox One at the beginning of the life cycle, you don't know what developers might decide to hold away from you a year or two down the line, which I think is a bit unfair because not everyone can afford all of the consoles nowadays. So for consumers, I think it's getting worse because people, and I get it seems as though the developers are getting greedier, but then it is still difficult to cross-develop all of these games as well. So there are developers which I think are doing it correctly. Companies like Naughty Dog, where they're making games specifically for the PlayStation. So again, if you know that if you're a fan of Naughty Dog's games, you buy the next Sony console because that's where Uncharted and all of their games are going to be released. And the benefit of that is what you see things like The Last of Us from the PS3. That was by far one of the best games to be released just in a technical sense for between the Xbox and the PS that stage, because they really understood by the end of that life cycle how to build games for the PS3. They had it down to a T. They utilized every bit of power that console would let them use. And I don't think that if you're developing for all consoles, you're going to be able to get that. So I think in those terms, I think that's really, really healthy. I think you're going to get better quality games if developers are focusing purely on console exclusives. But I think if they're doing it because money's being handed around or as a timed exclusive, things like that, they're just taking away from the consumer. They're not giving anything quality-wise back to them. They're taking profit because they can at that stage, and they're not benefiting anybody apart from themselves, essentially. So I think there are definitely pros and cons for it, depending on how it's approached.
Cool. So,
dry mouth.
So, I mean, it's quite interesting, really. I think definitely if you're an indie game developer or you're a small developer, to make stuff work on two different consoles can be quite a big task. So I guess it makes sense there when you're doing it. I mean, Tomb Raider, the recent one, is the one that sort of makes it a bit stupid, where Xbox is literally getting it a year before we're going to see it on any other game on the PlayStation. So PlayStation people have to wait a year to play the game, and and like, what's the deal with that? So like, does it take an extra year to adapt it to PlayStation? I don't think it would be. I can't remember who the studio that make it, but I definitely doubt it would take that long to make.
Square Enix now in Crystal Dynamics, isn't it? Or is that wrong?
Companies, that's the thing with companies like that. They would have a team on each at the same time. The only reason that would have happened is because Microsoft have approached them and said, look, give us an extra year on this. We need more players, and we'll give you some money towards the funding of making the game. And they've done it. It can take longer, but it's not going to take a year, and I don't think that would be why they would make that change. That's the sort of example of money changing hand, I'd say.
Yeah, it takes a year for them to empty the Microsoft briefcase of money.
Yeah.
But like, say, I mean, all right, if you got an Xbox One, right, and you're say you got an Xbox One and a PlayStation, and they release the game first on Xbox, then you're gonna buy it. But like, apart from that, like, releasing it like a year after or like 6 months after, like, why would you wait a year? Because by the time that game comes out, like, any hype or marketing you got for it is like absolutely pissed down the drain because you've
at the same time tell that to GTA 5 though.
In what, or for PC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get it on the consoles. I waited fucking ages, and then what they did was actually really smart. They actually added loads and put in first person mode and blah blah. But you do get the feeling in Tomb Raider that's not going to happen. It's just going to be the same game.
Well, with the PC version of Tomb Raider, we're getting like a month after. I think it comes out this month. It's come out in a couple of weeks, and it came out for
28th January.
That wasn't really a timed exclusive as such. So was it with GTA? That was, I think, Rockstar were quite honest at the beginning and said that we haven't had time to make it suitable for the PC. It just we wouldn't have a game that was playable in any way that they were happy with. I think, again, that's maybe a bit more of a genuine way to approach it, which is good for the consumers because we didn't have to play. I think when it came out on PC, it's still broken, but we didn't have to play it in a terribly broken way.
Broken isn't the word for it.
And the PC is
could have been worse.
It's still the top platform to develop for. So when you're making textures and everything, and you're developing for that, the PC is going to run it at the highest spec, running everything really high. So we can understand. I can understand for a PC game port why. God, my stomach is awful today. I can understand why it would take so much longer to bring out on it. I mean, yeah, and as Rockstar do, they release a lot of extra feature stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's not a black and white issue, is it? In essence, really, it all depends on the developer.
I think what you have to remember is that as a consumer, like, we're the ones giving. We're the reason games exist. Like, whatever else anyone thinks, like, I know we all want to feel special, but the reason that the gaming market exists is because there's plebs like me throwing money at people they've never met. And I think it's just there should be a much more goodwill when it comes to these exclusives. I have no problem with exclusives. Like, I think, it's cool. There needs to be an identity to each console. But when they say to you, like, like Tomb Raider, you're going to have to wait longer and it's going to be the same game, it's just... You just think, well, what the fuck? Like, what if I don't want to get your console? You're just basically telling me I can't have that game now or I can't have it ever. Like, what if I only get, like, a tiny amount of money and I save all of that up all year and I buy myself an Xbox One because, you know, I just fuck it. I don't know shit about games. I like consoles. And then I get told, actually, all the good games are on PS4 at the moment. It's just like, okay, why am I being punished? I would have bought those games. That's money lost. I think if... I don't know, because, you know, obviously I do understand it. You know, why would you not want exclusives if you're making games? But at the same time, I just get so angry that, like, I'm a Dark Souls fan. Loved the games, and then Bloodborne comes out, and it was so frustrating to not be able to play that, and that's literally the reason I bought a PS4. So they mugged me off good and proper there, and I'm sure they're sitting in their executive rooms going, let's do it again, because it worked.
Yeah.
But, God damn, I hate it.
It's weird as well so they must be offering like significant amounts. If you look at Xbox and PlayStation sales now, the PlayStation outnumbers it like 3-1, I think, on Xboxes. So if you're going to release a game they want to make the most money on, you want the biggest market, you're going to go PlayStation at the moment. So I reckon Microsoft have to handing out some like chunky publishing bonuses or exclusive bonuses, whatever, to these developers to get their money. Because as a developer, if you want to make the most money, I mean, you're counting that net loss of that potential market you're going in at for quite a safe, chunky payment from Microsoft. Not saying that they do that efficiently.
That is the other thing. That's one of the things that I sort of came across looking into this, is that it makes no sense unless the developers behind Tomb Raider were given quite a lot. It doesn't make as much sense for them because they're still releasing it on the other console.
Exactly.
But what they're doing is what Jack said, is they're taking a hit because they're not going to have as much interest when it finally comes out on the PS4. So they have to beat the hit they're expecting to take from the loss of the revenue from releasing later. But the other thing is that if a developer is approached and they're told that if you make your game exclusively for our console, possibly like Bloodborne, what that means is that, they're going to lose, they're guaranteed to lose revenue from one console. But if the benefit and value of what they're being given by the console owner is equal or above that, that means they can halve their development time, their team size, and the amount of different, because the SDKs are not going to be the same between the consoles, so it halves the amount of work they have to do. So that does need to be considered as well, I guess. And if they're completely exclusives. And
we both worked for a game developer last year. God, it's weird saying last year now, isn't it, Rob? But from that perspective, from those times when we were working for a game developer, it was like if someone just offers a ton of money to be able to release something exclusively, but to know we get that back, because like releasing games is terrifying for like any business. Like if your game doesn't take off, you're just screwed. If you don't make your money back, or you don't make enough to make another game, and you just sort of cover your costs, like you're not going anywhere. You can't make any more games. So I mean, I can definitely see the perspective from the developer point and what we're doing. To have a bit of the chat from the comments. I've got to pronounce these now. Zio Gamers G says exclusive games locked in certain consoles is just not good for the developers more than the creators, which is true. I think we spoke about, and it depends on what sort of compensation the creators are giving them. Particularly exclusive games are more just a purely business decision. Well, I think that's partly true, but I think most things with games, it's always going to be a business decision because you've got to make your money back from what you do. And everyone's got their own incentives to do different things. So, I don't think exclusive games are ever going to go away. But I'm going to throw out a controversial, not really controversial, but I think in the future, basically, we're not going to have any games consoles. We're not going to have any PC games. Everything's going to run on servers on a massive farm somewhere else, and everyone's internet's going to be quick enough. So basically, we'll be streaming games, and we'll just be playing without any big chunky hardware, and everything will run really high because it's not running on our computers, and that'll be the future. So, yeah, that's what I think. Who knows what will happen? It's on record now. It's on video.
Yeah. If you're right, we'll remember it. If not, we'll forget it for you.
I will be right. Games like on live, exactly like on live, but when everything's better. That's the future of games. It's really inefficient. Everyone doesn't need all this stuff. Oh, your cat.
He wants to be part of the LiveCast today.
Yeah. And so I can see Felix saying on live it's killing it. Yeah, on live at the moment isn't perfect from what it was. I think I think once internet gets, it's like my analogy I use is like when electricity first came out. So when electricity came out, everyone used to have their own generator, and every factory had it, and everyone would make their own electricity. But once it became, a national grid and it became more efficient, everyone just sort of like made this one big power plant, and everyone took electricity off that because it was far better. And it's the same with games. It's really inefficient for everyone to have their own little like computing power and stuff. And it's way more efficient just to have one massive server farm with everything on. But it'll do well. It'll be the future. Just wait and see. Just trust me. Trust Tim's opinion on everything, and you'll do all right.
I'll keep that in mind.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for watching us this week. This is now the end of the live stream, unfortunately, but don't worry, we'll be back next week from 5 till 6 on Sunday, and that is English time. So if you don't live in England, if you want to check on the times, that'll be fine. Thanks a lot for everyone who joined us today. Apologies for your comments. I can see you coming in now. That we can talking about stuff. Sorry, Zeo Gamers ZG, but if you're back next week, we'll happily jump onto your points again. My name's been Tim, and it's been Jack and Rob as well. And this has been Game Debate Live, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot for joining us. Oh, if I can get the music. There we go.